Hey up everyone, I'm happy to inform you that the UFC is starting off 2025 with a bang. Actually, sorry, that's a lie. We're starting off the year with a Fight Night event, which is going to be headlined by Amanda Ribas and Mackenzie Dern, the rematch. However, after this, we get an absolutely stacked UFC 311. The UFC has released a fair few fights that will be on that card, and it's going to be a great night of fights. Now, in usual typical fashion, we start from the bottom and work our way to the top. Well, we're going to scrap that and spin it on its head. We're going to start from the top and go all the way down to the bottom. We're going to go through the juicy fights first and make our way down to the less juicy fights, but there's still a bit of juice inside them. Now, just a disclaimer, if you don't like grappling whatsoever, well then you won't like the main event and co-main event of UFC 311. As the main event of this pay-per-view will be the rematch between Islam Makhachev and Arman Tsarukyan. And I feel like we've known this for a while now, but the UFC have finally confirmed it, that it will be the headline of UFC 311. And the co-main event, which I feel like took a lot of people by surprise, including myself, is a fight between Merab Dvalishvili and Umar Nurmagomedov. Now, the rematch between Islam and Arman, I'm expecting to be a very solid fight, just like their first fight. Both of them have made a lot of improvements ever since their first meeting, and they're still quite young, so I'm hoping it's going to be a very, very solid fight, and this clash of styles is just always a fun one. And I'm going to be honest, I'm predicting that Islam Makhachev will win that fight. I don't know an official prediction on how it's going to happen and when it may get a finish or whatever decision, whatever it may be. That'll happen as we get closer to the pay-per-view, but I do believe that Islam Makhachev is going to win and prove why he is the pound for pound number one in my opinion. But I do think that Arman Tsarukyan can make it a bit challenging for Islam. I mean, we all know that Arman has great grappling, but not only that, I feel like he has improved a fair bit when it comes to his striking, and he's just overall a lot better MMA fighter than he was when he first met Islam Makhachev. But just going off of his last performance at UFC 300 against Charles Oliveira, I don't know if he's going to be able to do enough in order to defeat Islam Makhachev. We then move on to the co-main where we have Merab taking on Umar, and I wasn't expecting this fight. It seemed like Merab kind of wanted no part of Umar, if I'm being completely honest. You could actually call him a duck, but then Merab apparently stormed Dana White's office and said that he wanted to fight Umar because Umar's been disrespecting him way too much. So I'm just hoping that John Jones is taking notes of Merab's approach going into this fight. And this fight was already interesting to me. I feel like the styles clash is so great. You know, knowing that Umar's only got one ranked victory over Corey Sandhagen, and Merab had to graft his way to get to championship status. But not only that, the press conference has just made me so much more excited for this fight than I originally was. I mean, seeing the altercation between the two backstage, even though it wasn't anything crazy, and then seeing Merab just completely lose his shit at the press conference, going red in the face while Umar just looks super chill. It was so fun to watch. And I know that many people don't believe that Umar deserves a title shot, and I understand that, but you can't tell me that you don't think Umar isn't the biggest threat to Merab, because I think he certainly is. I simply think that Umar has the best style in that 135 division to be able to defeat Merab. He has great grappling, that's his bread and butter, and not only that, against Corey Sandhagen, we saw how good his striking actually is, as he was able to outstrike Corey Sandhagen. Now, I know that was mainly because of the threat of a takedown, and Corey Sandhagen did a great job against some of these takedown attempts as well, but I just feel like his striking in general is quite good. I mean, his knockout of Irene Barcelos as well was quite great. I know Barcelos is a pensioner, but regardless, it was still a good knockout. And you know what? I think I'm going to side with Umar. I think Umar's going to get it done against Merab, but it won't be easy because Merab's proven he's just got that dog in him. I think it's safe to say that there's going to be a lot of bollock sniffing in the co-main and main event. But in my opinion, this bollock sniffing won't be that bad because it'll be some elite level grappling and some great scrambles in my opinion, like we saw with Movsar taking on Aljo just this past weekend. Right, now that I've talked about the juicy main and co-main, let's talk about the rest of the fights on this card because the quality doesn't drop off at all. As we have a light heavyweight banger between Jamal Hill and Yuri Prohaska, aka the Karen versus the Samurai. Now, I think it's fair to say that the majority of MMA fans will be rooting against Jamal Hill, given that he's been a bit of a clown ever since he got sparked out by Alex Pereira at UFC 300, and obviously I'd imagine most people have seen the altercation between him and Alex Pereira at the UFC PI, and yeah, I'm not going to get into that, but it didn't look the best of Jamal Hill. But regardless of Hill being a clown, I do think that this is a 50-50 fight, because I feel like Yuri is the more diverse and unorthodox fighter, but his defense is just so poor in my opinion. He gets hit so much, and going up against a big puncher like Jamal Hill, I don't know if that's going to be the best of ideas, having shit defense. Again, I know that people are disliking Jamal Hill a lot, but he is still a dangerous fighter. Even with Alex Pereira being able to get him out of there in one round and making it look very easy, doesn't take away from the fact that Hill is actually a very dangerous fighter and a skilled fighter. I'm actually going to side with Hill on this one. I think he's going to get the job done, but I'd love to be proven wrong, as I think many other MMA fans would. They want to see Hill knocked out cold, and I want to see Yuri get his hand raised. And now we move on to a lightweight fight, what really took me by surprise, and that's Renato Moicano taking on Beneil Dariush. I really thought that the UFC was going to make a fight between Renato Moicano and Paddy Pimblett, you know, maybe to headline a fight night event. I feel like that would have been a great main event for a fight night card. I was actually anticipating it to be the main event for UFC London. You know, I feel like the reasons for it would have been a fun build. They both have a lot of character, a lot of personality, which you can't say about every UFC fighter. And not only that, I just feel like the fight itself would have been quite fun, you know, both known for their jiu-jitsu, the grappling, and I thought it would have been quite a nice clash, but unfortunately we haven't got it. Yeah, Moicano probably would have been a lot better on the feet, I think that's safe to say, but still, I wouldn't have completely rooted Paddy Pimblett out. I think Paddy Pimblett would have had a decent chance, but I still would have favoured Moicano, so I am very surprised they didn't go down this route and make the fight between Moicano and Pimblett, but instead they gave Moicano Beneil Dariush, who's on back-to-back knockout losses, and the last time we saw him in the octagon was late 2023 against Arman Tsarukyan. And I don't know what to think about this matchmaking, because I feel like Moicano should have got a big opponent, to it, you know, just something big in general. After the year that he's had, having that nice performance against Jalen Turner after almost getting finished at UFC 300, the biggest card of the year, being able to submit Jalen Turner, and then later on in the year, just absolutely dominating Benoit Saint Denis, like, in his backyard as well. I thought he had an absolutely great year. I was expecting a big fight, like, again, the Paddy fight, or maybe, I don't know who else, I can't think of any names off the top of my head, but I was just thinking he'll get a bigger fight, and Beneil Dariush isn't exactly that. Now, I do think Dariush stylistically is quite hard for Moicano, but his durability is just completely gone. He can't really take a punch anymore, you know. So I think Moicano is going to get the job done, but people do seem to forget that Dariush did the best job of beating Gamrot, you know, completely not dominated him, but he made it look somewhat easy against Gamrot, in my opinion. Gamrot didn't really have any success against Dariush. If he's able to do that, fair enough. And I probably will cry some serious tears if he's somehow able to defeat Moicano. But remember, Moicano cannot lose. But this has left me with a question. What's going to happen next to Paddy Pimblett? I mean, I've seen a lot of people say, oh, why don't we do Paddy versus Benoit Saint Denis for UFC London? No. You know, Benoit Saint Denis took a lot of damage. I mean, he got finished by Dustin Poirier earlier on in the year, and then he took an absolute beating by Renato Moicano. I would say don't rush him in there against Paddy Pimblett. Yes, Paddy Pimblett I don't think would inflict too much damage against it. I could be wrong though, you know. I mean, Moicano had his way with Saint Denis because of the grappling, and if Paddy was able to do the same, not saying that he would, but if he was able to do the same, who knows whether he could inflict so much damage on him just the same way that Moicano did. So I don't think that would be the best of ideas to do Moicano and Paddy Pimblett. Now, a couple of names I can think of off the top of my head for Paddy to face off next. Maybe Gamrot, but be kind of hard to sell that fight given that no one really cares about Gamrot and his fight style and just him in general, even though his last fight was a banger against Dan Hooker, in all fairness, but that was mainly because of Dan Hooker. I then said maybe Jalen Turner, but I don't know really, but that's a possibility, I suppose. And then the next one I don't think the UFC would go for, because I think it'll be a horrible matchup for Paddy. That's Rafael Fiziev. The last time we saw him was against Gamrot, where he picked up a bad injury and he's been out for a while, so this will be his comeback fight. But Fiziev has great takedown defense and obviously has amazing striking, so I feel like that wouldn't be the best of ideas for Paddy, but I really don't know what they're going to do with Paddy next, I'll be honest with you. But let's get back to the UFC 311 card. We also have Reiner Derrida, the UFC newcomer who defeated Gerard Meerschaert earlier on, what was it, like last month, I believe. He's going to be taking on Kevin Holland. Holland. And honestly, I think this is a decent step up for DeRidder, you know, beating Mearshart and then moving up to fight, you know, Big Mouth, kind of gatekeeper. Yeah, Gatekeeper. Gatekeeper and Kevin Holland, you know, MVP defeated him on his debut and whatnot. So I'd say he's a gatekeeper at this point in Kevin Holland. But I'm not completely sold on DeRidder. I do think he's going to win this one because Kevin Holland is quite inconsistent. But I'm not completely counting out Kevin Holland because DeRidder, I wasn't completely impressed with his last performance. And the main reason I say that, I just feel like DeRidder's defense, when I say defense, I mean striking defense, and Mearshart did look about a bit leaky and didn't look the best. And Kevin Holland, I'm not going to say he's a great striker, but he is a good striker and he possesses a fair bit of power. So you don't really want to make any mistake against Holland on the feet. And I think Holland will do better on the feet against DeRidder than Gerald Mearshart did. Now I'm going to move down to the prelims where we have Johnny Walker taking on Bogdan Guskov. And I'm going to be honest, I've got Bogdan by first round knockout. I think this fight ends in the first round, given the fact that Johnny Walker, for every fight, spawns in on just 1 HP, you know, one little slap to him and he's completely gone. So I think Bogdan's going to get him out of there in the first round. I'm just hoping for a crazy, like, maybe minute or two if it can last that long. Also on this card, we have a massive bantamweight prospect and Peyton Talbot performing against Raoni Barcelos. And honestly, I think Peyton's going to add another highlight reel KO to his resume. I mean, I'm completely counting out Barcelos. He looked good a few years ago, but now he's just too old and simply just not good enough. And I just think Peyton's going to absolutely run through him. I'm just praying that after this fight, Peyton's able to get out of there and have a quick turnaround. Unlike, you know, in his last performance against, was it Yanis Gamuri? I can't say his name properly. He knocked him out within like 20 seconds and it's taken him 6 months, sorry, not 6 minutes, fucking hell. 6 months to get another fight. I'm really hoping that's not the case if he's able to get rid of Barcelos and not take any damage whatsoever. And on the prelims, we also have a boring, stinky heavyweight fight between Jailton Almeida and Sergey Spivak. And yes, I know it's a hard one to look forward to, but I do think that Jailton Almeida is going to get Spivak out of there quite early, given that Spivak just kind of crumbles when it comes to the bigger fights. And I know that Jailton Almeida has lost a lot of hype ever since his loss to Curtis Blades, but I'm going to be honest, I still think he's going to be a problem in that heavyweight division. Just because he lost to Curtis Blades, I'm not going to completely count him out like I've seen many others do. I still think Almeida could be a big problem for a lot of the heavyweights. So I think it's safe to say that the UFC aren't fucking about with this first pay-per-view of 2025, and I think they're delivering some fun and interesting bouts. And at the end of the day, that's simply what fight fans love to see. But I am interested in what you guys think about this card, UFC 311. Let me know in the comments what you think about this card. Let me know some of your predictions, and just have a general conversation about UFC 311, because I'm very interested to see what people think about this card. Thank you for watching the video, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.